Humans in the cardboard. Welcome back to Just Nuts, guys. Doom of Dimensions is fully revealed now, at least for the OCG version. We're going to get our version that has the rest of the RB stuff and some other OCG imports and TCG exclusives. So it's going to be a little different from us, but at least for like the core 80 cards of what this set is going to hold, we know everything. Which is really cool. It means that we can now try to judge this as a whole, as a sum of its parts, not just individual pieces. And I'm excited to do so because I feel like I've been a little bit of a Debbie Downer on some of the most recent core sets that have come out. Not that they were terrible, but I feel like a lot of them were mid. If they had really good legacy support, they probably had like pretty weak new archetypes. And if they had really good new archetypes, it maybe like the legacy support felt lacking, or there were no big generic cards that kind of helped sell the set, or whatever. You know what I mean? Chase cards and whatnot. But I think this one has a pretty dang good balance across the board, and I'm excited to talk about it. So let's jump into it. You know, we do the five separate categories for me. That includes brand new archetypes, sexy support. This is the support that I think like will have a legit competitive implications, or at least potential competitive implications, even if just like a really solid rogue deck or above, kind of in that category. Then we had the fun support. This is support for other archetypes that, like, if you're a fan of, this is really cool for you. I just don't expect it to really make waves on the competitive scene. Then you have the sort of generic cards. Every core set has a handful of these where like it'll support a kind of specific subcategory of decks, but not like a ton of different ones, maybe 3 or 4 different decks. So it's not like fully generic, like any deck can play it, but still could have like multiple decks that may want to make use. And then you have the bomb generics. These are your Mulcharmies, your Dominus cards. Wink, wink. We'll get to that. Usually there aren't too many of these. At most, I think I've ever seen like 3 of these in one core set. So you're not going to see a ton of these, but still, we have also a good amount of core sets that have none. So one I'll still take, right? All right, let's get into this. Let's start from the top. New archetypes. What do we have? We have 2 brand new ones right here. First and foremost, we have Doom Z, a new cool archetype added to the Artmagia lore, Artmage lore. Pretty cool stuff. They deal with equip spells and kind of exceeds. They can all kind of like cheat into different exceed monsters in the archetype, which is really cool. Has a really interesting start. I think they have a lot of solid cards. They have like some good consistency cards. They have some interesting boss monsters. Doesn't feel like they have like quite the maybe level of interaction that like modern day decks feel like they need, but like still not gonna lie, like I still really like the start, and that's really important because with how Konami's been running their modern day like sets, they'll drop a new archetype, and then for the next 2 or 3 next core sets, they're going to get a few more cards every single set. So even just a solid start, I will take. I want a good base, and then they just build on that base. So I think this one's a win. I think Doom Z is a solid archetype here. Next up, we have the Magnifica archetype. This is an archetype designed around MST, Mystical Space Typhoon, old classic, like the classic spell and trap removal. At least the one that when I was growing up, like I'm like in the front of my mind as like the go-to one. Is it outclassed a little bit by Cosmic Cyclone at this point? Yes, and Twin Twisters probably as well. Sure. But like, it's still not a terrible card, and they build a whole archetype around it. This deck to me feels kind of like Wind Fire King. It's like an all-wind version of Fire King, kind of. Like they have no extra deck monsters, but they have a lot of solid tools in the main deck. They're built around kind of quick play spells and MST specifically, but they do a lot of cool things. And again, I don't expect either of these archetypes to jump right onto the scene and be competitively relevant immediately, but I do think they have a really solid basis. And again, if they're going to get 2 more cards in the next core set and then 2 more cards in the set after that, like I think both of these archetypes could have legit chances to be, legitimate players in the formats to come. So I like them both for that reason. I think this is a good category. I'm actually going to give this category an 8 out of 10. I really think like they did a solid job. You're telling me we get 2 archetypes that maybe won't be crazy out the gate, but maybe they could even be rogue decks to start, but like potential to climb higher. I think that's a win. That's a win in a core set. Next up, you have the sexy support. These are the stuff that is a little more competitive. Start with DDDs. They get a huge wave here. DDD is so hard to analyze unless you are in the weeds with DDD and you are like a big fan and you know like all the cards and everything. It's kind of hard from the outside looking in to analyze support like this. But god damn it, they got some good cards, man. This card specifically, this main deck new Pendulum Monster is like a crazy good card. They got some they got like some bonus consistency additions. They've already had some good cards. The one thing I think about and worry about a little bit with the deck is just that it is a pendulum deck, and pendulum decks just struggle, and it's very combo oriented. So, you know, with Charmies and Droll and like these heavy-handed hand traps that, like, I don't know how, like, do those cards rip a deck like this to shreds? Maybe a DDD player will you know, persuade me otherwise and just say, no, it's actually not as big a deal. The support helps you play around a lot of cards. That's totally possible, but I'm not an expert in it. But I still put it in the sexy support category because I think the deck just might have enough just straight up good cards where like it still might poke through and make something interesting happen. Next up here, we have the Anamat support. There's literally one card here following up the cover support from the last set. And this card's awesome. It's really, really good. It means you don't have to play a brick anymore in your deck. You can play a card that's like not even necessarily a brick to open in your hand. It's really good though. This card counts as like all the Utopia names. Like it counts as a Gaga, a Dododo, a Go, and a did I say Gaga to start? Zubaba. Zubaba's the fourth one. Counts as all of those, so it has synergy. Like it works with every other card in the archetype, basically. It's a really cool card. It may only be a one of, but it power creeps a lot of the options we already had, which is kind of nice. So yeah, it's solid. And Utopia's already seeing play with Ryziel, so yeah. Rose Dragon's a really interesting one. I went ahead and gave it the nod into sexy support. Not that I think it's going to be a crazy deck, but I think some of these cards just have such high potential. And this is one that's like on the fringe, and like maybe I'm leaning just more towards the optimistic side on it. But I really just think the new synchros are crazy. Both of the new synchros like read insane. This card basically gives you the ability to quick effect Black Rose Dragon on your opponent's turn, which is so cool. That's something I've been like asking for Rose Dragons forever. I wish they'd gotten a couple more main deck like Rose Dragons, but also kind of like we've seen recently, Konami has been following up support, even if it wasn't cover support, with more cards in the next set. So it's possible we still get more Rose Dragon stuff in the next core set as well. So I'm not gonna call it done just yet, but these cards are really good. And the other Synchro 6 as well is also an insane engine card for the deck. So I'm very curious to see what people can do with this, but I think there's good potential there. Now we have to throw the obligatory Justice Hunter support, because these decks are already good and they all just got new tools. Draco Tale is going to be a solid deck. I don't know if it's going to be tier 1, but they get 2 new cards here. It's probably the weakest support overall of the 3 archetypes, which is kind of a bummer because this is probably like the worst deck of the 3 currently in the OCG at least, or at least, on initial release. But yeah, they get nice cards. I think this archetype gets a new trap that messes with the opponent's graveyard and a new monster. But they're not starters or anything. They're just like cards that you might utilize with your combos. And outside of that, nothing too crazy. We get 2 new yummy cards, a new spell, and a new monster. The monster is great for the archetype and basically confirms that we're going to get at least one more synchro for the deck. And this deck is popping off. This deck is going to be quite good, I would imagine. I'm excited to mess with them. There's not much to say here. If you're a fan of Yummy, they got a little better here. Maybe even more than a little better. We'll see. And then K9. K9 also deserves to be here. This is a really interesting one because K9 is in a little bit of a weird spot, just in the fact that they, like, this support really feels like, to me, and I'm no expert on K9, I'm just just from what I've seen in the OCG and stuff and what I've read, these new cards feel like they facilitate pure K9, which is actually not a very good deck at the moment. At all. So K9's really been splashed as an engine in other archetypes like Vanquish Soul, like Crystron, like Cyber Dragon, stuff like that. These cards are cool because they don't just make that stuff better. We don't want generic engines to become even more generic and better. You now give 2 new good cards that kind of push the deck into being like, oh, I actually might play pure K9 now, and move on with that, because that's another really cool angle to it. So I like it. It's cool stuff. Next up, we have Dogmatica. We'll do this here just to make sure it's visible, doesn't get cut off screen. This support's really cool as well. They get a new hand trap monster and a new trap. The trap isn't overly impressive. I kind of wish they got something better than that trap, but this monster is very cool. Has the potential to be like quite an impactful hand trap, which is really cool for a deck like Dogmatica. It's cool, and Dogmatica is just an engine that we could see with like ritual decks in general. So So it's cool to see them kind of take advantage of that and just give them a nice tool to help kind of an underpowered engine at this point. A little more oomph going second, which is cool. And I like it. So I appreciate it for what it is. Next up, we have Tri-Brigade. Rora, go lay down. She's being a menace right now. Next up, we have Tri-Brigade, though. Tri-Brigade kind of fits in the same realm as Dogmatica. They feel like similarly powered decks at this point in Yu-Gi-Oh, but they get a crazy new Link 2. This Link 2 can be made with any Tri-Beast types. So basically, any deck that just puts 2 Tri-Beasts on the field can now connect into the Tri-Brigade engine, which is really cool. I think this card maybe allows a deck that is mostly Tri-Beast based to kind of have the ability to pivot into the Tri-Brigade engine really easily and either increase the potency of their end boards or maybe just increase the potency, but also maybe even like play through certain stuff where they might have been stopped before because now they can easily just pivot into something that gets them some solid end board presence. Who knows? But I still think this stuff has cool potential, especially going into the future. And then the last thing I have in this category is Art Mage. Art Mage is already like an interesting deck. I think it's going to be like roguish, right now. But it's seen a little bit of success in the OCG, and they get a couple more cards. I felt really underwhelmed by this wave, but I have to throw it here because I just already think Art Mage is just kind of like interesting, an interesting rogue deck, and like these cards can only help. They're not like terrible. They just didn't feel necessarily like what I wanted from Art Mage support, what I felt like Art Mage maybe needed. They already had plenty of consistency, but it felt like they needed a little more oomph. You know what I mean? Ability to crack boards, ability to make stronger boards going first, stuff like that, which this support didn't really feel like it was focused on. But they'll still probably get more going forward. And that makes up your sexy support tier. There's a lot of good stuff in here, man. I think, honestly, just the Justice Hunter stuff is really pulling a lot of the weight. The DD, like your cover support's actually legit. Utopia gets a really strong follow-up card. And then you add in the Tri-Brigade, the Rose Dragon, the Dogmatica stuff. There's really a lot going on here. I think this is probably, for me, another 8 out of 10. I'm really quite optimistic on this category as well. Whoa, that's crazy. There we go. Yeah, so I like it. I'm in for it. All right, then we get to the fun support. We can zoom through a lot of these because these are, the whole point of these is I just don't think they're quite competitive enough to be on the tier above. Goki gets new cards, but they're weird. They don't do much, I feel like, for Goki. I don't think it's really going to do much. Psychic's a little bit interesting. Someone might argue that this could have moved up to the other tier, but I just still have a hard time seeing it. But they get more extra deck monsters, and they help. They have some legitimate things they do. I just don't think it's like legit competitive level. You know what I mean? They could do some stuff. It's just not there. True Draco. Very surprising in this set that we got 3 new True Draco cards. Unfortunately, I think you could argue all 3 are ass. Complete ass. I don't know if I would say that far, but like they're too underwhelming for where True Draco is. Like you're telling me like we're not getting Diagram back to 3, and then you just make a boss monster that needs 3 tributes. You make a Searcher that doesn't give you an additional normal summon like all the other continuous spells in the deck do. So you can search something, but it doesn't help you get them out necessarily. If you've already used your normal summon. So yeah, just weird, like weird support, man. I don't know. I don't even hate True Draco. So like if they had made this good, I could have been excited for it, but really felt underwhelming here. We have Sulfur We have Regenesis. It's Sulfur, man. It's another Pendulum deck. Pendulum decks just can't hang in modern day unless they're crazy. And I think DDD has at least some cards that have the potential to be crazy. Sulfur doesn't, is what it is. Regenesis gets another card. I know Regenesis is like a fringe rogue deck, so like you could have moved it up just on that fact. But I just think this card literally, like, why would you ever play this? I just don't think you have a reason to really play it. And then we finish with Megalith. Cool ritual-based deck. Some people might argue that this should be moved up as well. I don't quite see it. I just think like with where Megalith was, this support is decent, but it doesn't feel like it's like, oh, this is going to crack into like legit competitive Yu-Gi-Oh level. And the other thing here is with this category, it's a weird one, right? Because we're talking about a category that by definition is like a category that's like, it's not competitively relevant. So do I really like factor this in when we're like rating the set? I guess I would actually rate this tier like kind of low because at least for me, the archetypes that got support here aren't even that cool. Not a big Megalith guy. I think Regenesis is fine, but they whiffed on the support. Like, it's not even a little helpful. So who cares about Soulful Cord? I like True Draco. It's just like it isn't anything. And then Goki and like Psychics, I'm like indifferent about. So it's like, you know what I mean? Even if they had picked, like, I'm a big Magna Warrior fan, like a deck like Magna Warrior, where even if they made support that didn't make them good, I still would be like, I'm still excited to play some non-competitive Magnet Warriors with new stuff. It just feels like a whiff for me. So this tier, unfortunately, feels really low, but I'm gonna give it a 5 out of 10. I just don't even love the picks they chose here for the most part. Outside of True Draco, like almost every other pick here, I'm just kind of like, I don't care about it because it's my rankings. So you know, I'm doing it off of how I feel about it. All right, then next we have the sort of generic category. We're gonna go into this card's name is crazy, but it's because it's a spirit monster. They have the crazy names. It's like Sayori Hime, something spiritual. Very cool card. Clearly supposed to be support for Exosister, but this card kind of is just like light. Is it light spellcaster support? Light and dark spellcaster support, I think. So it has some potential applications in other decks as well, although it is very clearly supposed to be Exosister support because she like searches a light spellcaster with 800 attack or defense, and every Exosister has that stat line, so it's clearly supposed to be for that, but there could be some other applications there for sure. But it's a solid card for them, honestly. Like when Exosister actually gets real support, which they should because they were in the tactical tri decks this year, this card could combine with that stuff to actually make Exosister like catch up with modern day. I'll be curious to see that. All right, next up we have a new Exceed. This one was one of the filler cards, quote unquote filler cards revealed at the end. Very interesting card. Every time a spell or quick play spell is activated, this card can absorb it as a material. And then on the end phase, it can set any spell that is currently one of its materials. So, you know, there can be certain matchups where, you know, this card is taking away spells. I mean, even like there's going to be other instances too, but the most glaring one is something like, what do you play against Sky Striker? And they like activate a spell or trap and you just like suck that shit up like immediately. Like you just suck it up. So they get no spells in graveyard. They can't get spells in graveyard at that point. And then their deck is super fair and you beat them. It's a cool card. I'm curious to see what kind of applications people can come up with for that card. Next up, we have a new Link 2, another filler card. It's a spellcaster support card. Kind of reads like it's supposed to have like direct Dark Magician support kind of intertwined there. It's cool. I don't hate this card. It gives you like an additional normal summon. It's not out of this world, but it's a nice little card that could come up. We also have a brand new Link 2 designed for Rescue Ace, because Rescue Ace was the other tactical tri-deck alongside Exosister. So this card's nice for them. It gives them some nice additional ways to like to extend and maybe even dodge some stuff. It's fine. It's not a crazy card, but it's also like a Fire Warrior, I think. So, you know, Infernoble maybe down the line, other decks like that. Maybe this card can come up for them. Maybe Flame Swordsman, those types of decks. There might be a couple other decks that might be able to make use of it, but it's a nice little card. It's not crazy, but it's fine. And then we have a new Searcher. We have Infernal Punishment, I think is the name. This card searches very specific stuff. If you want to look into what it can search, clearly it's from the anime when Bastion plays against the guy who had the Infernal Punisher card. It searches very specific stuff. There aren't really great targets for it right now, but as we've come to learn, Konami will just print a search card that has no good targets, but that kind of almost confirms that in the next year or so, they're going to print multiple cards that like give you legit targets, right? Canine made Power Elements? Whatever that card is, Chaotic Elements. Canine almost entirely by itself made Chaotic Elements relevant. They'll do something like that for this, I would guess. And then the last card for this category is Fusion Recruitment. It's interesting card. Lets you kind of search monsters that are specifically listed on a fusion monster, but it's going to lock you into fusions. It feels like at this point there aren't any specific decks that like really we're waiting for a card like this. But again, kind of in the same vein as the punishment card, when they print a card like this and we don't have a deck that really feels like it has a perfect home for it, I think Konami might be planning a good home for it in the near future. So we'll just have to keep an eye on that. And I moved to Bomb Generics. There's only one card that fits in this category, and it's the brand new Dominus Spiral, I think is the name. Very interesting hand trap. It's one of those hand traps that I'm kind of happy about because it has some reasonable drawbacks to it that kind of make it fair, but it the card could still totally see play. It is also like a type of hand trap we have really never seen in outside of maybe like Ghost Ogre. Like, so it's a hand trap that can like bounce a monster on field, and maybe we would say like, okay, well, Nib's removal in a hand trap, but Nib is just such a specific beast. It feels like a different category. Ogre is really the only other hand trap I can think of that is just like kind of straight removal, but even Ogre has to work in such specific ways, right? Like continuous spells and traps and like monsters that specifically get punished with being removed by the field, being removed from the field. But and this card is just a little different. It's a little more free form. You can fire it whenever, bounce a card, but there are some drawbacks associated with it. So it's cool. It expands the horizon on Dominus cards, not just in what this card does, but because this card only locks you out of light and dark monsters. Now we kind of start a whole new cycle where we had the first 2 Dominus cards and we were like, oh, okay, I guess they're done because those 2 locked you out of all 3 or all 6 of the archetypes or all 3 of the main attributes combined. I guess we're done with Dominus cards, right? Wrong, because now this one only locks you from light and dark. So under basic logic, you would kind of think that we have at least 2 more Dominus hand traps coming, which is very interesting. But even this card by itself is probably going to be the chase card of the set. It's for sure going to be a Super Rare. It's for sure going to be pretty expensive. But it is a cool card, and I kind of like what it's got going on. So anyway, for the sorted generics category, I like this. There's some good stuff here. There's nothing like out of this world. I would give it like a solid, like average kind of like ranking here. I think 7 out of 10 feels fair for them. And for the bomb generics, I can't give it a crazy rating. 2 insane cards. Like, if there was also a Mulcharmy in this set, you could give this like a 9 out of 10. You're telling me we're getting a new Dominus and a Mulcharmy. You could give that a 9 out of 10. It's by itself. I don't want to like dock it points because I think this is a legitimate card. It at least gives us something to chase. I'm gonna give it a 7 out of 10 because they at least got one big one in here. And I think that's, in most cases, that's the minimum you need, but we at least got that, so I'm not going to complain. And there you have it. There's kind of your tiers. These average out to what? Like a pretty solid score. 8, 8, 7, 7. Yeah, like this probably averages out to like low 7 or like, you know, low to mid 7 score, which is solid. We'll take that all day. That's like a legit good set, man. I really think it has some potential impact, even if like on drop it doesn't have the craziest impact, but like what it does is it sets up 2 cool archetypes excuse me, that could have good impact down the line, and a bunch of other stuff here that maybe could be capitalized as well. And maybe even some of these generic cards where like this and this come out for Rescue Ace and Exosister, and these cards just won't be as relevant right now because it's not enough. But once they get more support sooner than later, then it's going to be part of a legit competitive deck potentially, right? And then we're talking about it again. So I think this set has a lot of good stuff going for it. I think this is one of the better ones I've rated in the last year or so. So I'm high on it. I'm happy about it. Let me know your guys' thoughts down below, though. Let me know where you land on the set. What are you excited for? How do you think this set overall feels to you in terms of, you know, just how good it is and how much players are going to enjoy it? I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts on that down below. But I'm out of here for today. Thank you so much for watching. As always, guys, stay tuned for more things Yu-Gi-Oh! From the channel going forward. I'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching. Peace.